Right now, you can make your voice heard.
They hit the road bomb going 60 miles an hour.
If you have something to say,
Flipped over
you can
3
say it.
times.
You can say it to someone you
And
know,
you can see the picture
someone you don't
and
know,
wonder how he survived in that road
a group
bomb.
of people,
His
a
website
community, a
is
state,
markiraq.com.
a nation,
and I beg
or
each
the
one
world.
of you here today to go to his website and sign his guest book to tell him that
You can do this
He said nobody
because you live in a free country.
And I beg each one of you here today to go to his website and sign his guest book to tell him that you do care about him. He said nobody cares about him. Nobody cares. He's just an object over there. He said nobody cares about him.
No law can be
And all
passed
you are
that
here
denies this
today,
freedom,
I love each one of you because you're
because
here
free
today
speech is
saying
a
that you
right that is
care about my
guaranteed by the
son-in-law.
First Amendment of our Constitution.
Morrison of the Backbone Campaign has printed out hundreds of labels.
The First Amendment also gives you the right to assemble, which means you are free to listen to and believe whatever you want. In the past, citizens assembled in churches and town halls or exchanged ideas through written publications. Today, we can exchange ideas electronically over the internet and through radio and television. The Federal Communications Commission was created to give control of the airwaves to the people, in part to ensure that our right of free speech was preserved. As U.S. citizens, we control who can use the airwaves and how they can be used. In the 40s, free people saw firsthand how the airwaves could be used to control a nation. The Nazis were able to easily disseminate their ideology of hate and fear by restricting what people could hear, by narrowing their choices down to one. The Nazis used physical force to maintain and spread their power, but only after successfully using words to instill their message in the minds of the people under their control. To ensure that free speech would not be abridged in America, the FCC passed rules that restricted the number of media outlets one group could own. The rules helped guarantee diversity by making it nearly impossible for one group with a single ideology to monopolize the airwaves. Diversity created a healthy competition among broadcasters, which helped ensure that we would hear the truth. One group would have a tough time pushing totalitarianism and spreading lies if it were forced to compete with other broadcasters that promoted free thought and democracy. This level of diversity existed until the mid-'80s, when a small number of powerful media companies helped rewrite the rules. This and further deregulations gave a great deal of control away to private interests. One of the results was media consolidation. Today, there is far less diversity of media ownership. Not only can one company own multiple radio, television, and newspaper outlets in a single market, the company can own a far greater number overall. Media consolidation means the radio or television stations you listen to are likely to be owned by large corporations that may own hundreds of other media properties and have few or no ties to your local community. There are very few locally owned broadcasters today. Media advocacy groups such as Free Speech and Seattle's Reclaim the Media were formed to help protect our rights from the burgeoning corporate media.
What happens, I think, a lot of times when you have government regulation and you have that going hand in hand with industry, what ends up happening after a period of time is you start to see that there is a lot of flow between industry and government.
Right now, in globally, we're talking about 6 corporations that control everything we see, hear, or read. And that means that 6 guys can get in a room and decide that the world is not round, it's a rectangle. If companies also own the media, companies that produce other products, goods, or services also own the media, they also get to control the stories that are told. General Electric owns NBC. So you're not going to hear information contrary to General Electric's profit model. So that's why it's really sort of important for us, even as citizens, to be very vigilant.
As they consolidate and they control more and more of the media landscape, then they're less interested in providing voice for for people that don't fit their model, their profit model.
I can bring home the bacon.
Unlike the 40s, the immediate threat of media consolidation is no longer the spread of Nazism.
Is it the Joker? It is the Joker. He has won.
The threat today is the dissemination of an ideology of mass consumption and commercialism. Our airwaves are not monopolized by Nazi propaganda, but by corporate interests. We're not being told to believe in a master race. We're being told to believe in a master card. While the FCC successfully kept the Nazis and communists from taking control of our airwaves, we have sold out to big money interests. Today, almost all decisions involving what we see and hear over the air are based on profitability for a handful of media conglomerates. We have nearly lost the battle for media diversity. The very narrow, singular message we hear is consume more. More pizza, more cars, more pills, more religion. The message we don't hear much anymore is think. Think for yourself. Think about what you're doing.
Flip-down monitor with a built-in
The business of media as the business of delivering audiences to advertisers. And so you have the focus then is upon reaching a particular demographic.
There are, certainly people out there that think that, what's the term, let the market decide. We're sort of at the point now where the word democracy and capitalism are interchangeable.
Tastes so good, you'll get lost in it.
inside the age.
But our choices are not only being narrowed by media consolidation and centralization. Cable TV has turned free TV into pay TV and controls what we see and hear. The Free Speech Amendment guarantees our right to freely assemble. Cable TV charges admission and then chooses who can speak. Cable TV gives us more channels, but the choice of channels is controlled by the cable company. Where cable has the potential for a rich variety of media, true diversity is limited by the need to maximize profit.
And the result of that is that you have a surface kind of diversity. Basically, it's all coming from the same commercial interests.
The cable operator chooses the channels that are most likely to make it money. But what if a culture is too niche? What if an idea is too far out? What if a philosophy is too unpopular? What if a point of view isn't profitable? What if a type of programming sends the wrong message? The problem isn't about what the cable company does give us, but what it doesn't. Most cable customers learn to accept whatever is handed them by the media companies. But in doing so, we give up some of our freedom.
Make it beautiful, but not good enough for you guys. Relax.
That sounds cute.
And this, of course, you think of this as what?
What we hope in grassroots media advocacy is that there's a little green space there for things like free speech and First Amendment type issues to flourish.
I think of SCAN as being a lot like a park where people come, a commons, if you will, where people can come and they can come to look, they can watch, they can participate, they can observe. Folks that aren't normally represented in the mainstream media, this is a place where these communities can get their messages out, not just to their constituencies, but it can extend their message to a slightly broader audience and encompass different niche markets.
That is what SCAN is. It's true community television. It's true reality television. And it's our neighbors telling us stories as opposed to someone in Philadelphia who knows nothing about us.
Well, SCAN was created by the city after a report called the River Oaks Report, which indicated that it was really important for a nonprofit to take over the operation of the public access channel. And that was because the cable company had no vested interest. It didn't make money for them. It was the home of people who had things to say which did not necessarily mirror corporate sentiments. And so as a result, they were not able to fully support it the way it should be supported. Eventually the city agreed totally that that was the way to go and took over responsibility for actually creating a nonprofit which then could contract to be the manager for the public access channel.
You be down here at 6:30, and I'll tell you what. What gave us the idea to make a show at Scan was looking at other shows that were being produced and saying to ourselves, now wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's a place in this town where we can actually go get on a soapbox and espouse whatever we want to? Wow. We started doing 5-minute comedic inserts for somebody else's show. It started a following. We started getting emails. We didn't even have email addresses. That led itself then to us actually entering a lottery, winning a show slot. That's where we started with a major show. My nickname is Major Pixel, so we basically centered it around your trusty show host, going out and conning anybody I could into being on the show. It's 2 years later, and now we're doing the Good TV thing. The focus of the show has a lot to do with showing people growing and learning, showing people who may not be particularly good at something in the beginning, but watching as they evolve and learn, and helping people understand that, you know what, if you don't know what you want to do, the most fun you can have is sampling things and figuring out what is it that you want to do. Because once you know what you want to do, life becomes fantastic. It becomes a dream. One of our rules is this: if it's causing stress and it's related to the show, then you're doing it wrong. My crew is a mixture of jaded old pros, young rookies who are learning, but the thing that's consistent about them is that, you know, with a couple of them, any of the mix of them, I'm comfortable delivering a show that's a quality show. It's a really special thing, and I gotta say, of all of the things that I'm particularly proud of Good TV, and there's a lot, what has been most touching is the commitment of the team.
At that time, I was very interested in the area of spirituality. And in that area, there weren't very many people doing that. So here I had the opportunity, because there was an open access channel. Otherwise, what does it cost? Hundreds of thousands of dollars? You know what my show is about? Personal freedom and individuality. You becoming your own authority, not some governmental agency, not some doctor, not some religious figure, but you are your own authority. That's what my show is about. I guess I do have an interest in becoming more conscious, in being authentic, in thinking, in teaching myself how to think. So my guests are people also who like to share ideas with other people, so that we're contributing to life. I personally love television. I love the technology of television. To me, it's just absolutely fascinating. Of course, now the web is the same way. It just fascinates me that you can get this little gizmo and it takes a picture of you, and then you can reach umpteen people. The airwaves that television is carried on are free. It's all of ours. And yet what's happening in our country is that this power is being held by just certain individuals, and we have to take that back. If somebody listening has something that they think is interesting and they would like to have more exposure, you know what? I believe just by putting energy into it, that then goes out into the airwaves, that there's some bigger miracle that's taking place.
So, I mean, you plan on going all the way to the top of it, and I'm originally from Austin, Texas, born and raised there. And like I was saying, I got into video and media production, and I've been doing public TV all my life. I was raised by a public access station, which was ACTV at the time, Channel 10. ATV. And as I got older, I'd walk into the public TV station, and I was like 16, 17 years old. And they'd think I was part of the janitor crew to clean it up at night, and they'd tell me to go to the mop bucket. So I ran into a lot of friction, even though it was a station. So I said, the main thing I got to do is produce something for my people, but produce it with an edge.
Freddie Fender. ¿Cómo estás, Freddie Fender?
Oh, real good. I'm doing good.
Bottom line, my thing is to entertain people with music and have a voice. And we're called the Latino, the Hispanic, the Mexican Americans, whatever you want to call us. We're called the invisible people. And personally, I get tired of that, man. We're not the invisible people. You know, and to have a voice, man. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to reach the soul of the Latinos. And that's, I put music for that because, you know, festivals, culture, you can go back 300 years and you got mariachis, ballet folclórico.
¿Cómo te llamas, señor?
Angelo Torres.
I'm here with the one and only champion, baby. That's right, campeón, representing the Northwest. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Angelo. Tell the people out there.
I'm just a hard-working guy, pretty much.
Very humble.
Very humble. Went down to Missouri back in December 2004. Beat the champ down there, me and my trainer, Anthony Hunter. And we train here in Tacoma. And anybody that want to come down and
get knocked out. If they want to come down there and get knocked out, go ahead and come on down.
Get knocked out or just learn how to box.
No, I'm not selling anything. The only thing I'm selling is lift yourself up. Si se puede. That means yes, you can, people. You can take it to another level, but you gotta bring yourself up, man. Don't get depressed. Don't let yourself down. Life is about obstacles, man. Come up. Si se puede, con ganas.
I went up to 440 pounds. 2 heart attacks, diabetes. I was hit 8 times in Vietnam, and I had complications from that. And so here was this big waddling person still trying to talk about veterans issues. Well, we put two things together. We kept the idea that veterans issues, especially minority veterans, should be heard, and that we would create a model. I preach like I'm preaching now. We get on the bikes, we get in here and we lift weights. We show you the intensity that it's caused, or how you get to the next level of weight loss. And then I cook a meal for you. Halibut with banana sauce. We cook a meal that's dynamite. And this is different. On a grassroots level, it's showing how somebody like me and you can come in the gym or go on our way on a health journey. The importance of that is that this is a political statement. This is not a comedy show, it's a political statement. In this country now, 98% of people fail their diets. People gain their weight back 90% after 4 years. I won't sell you a pill and won't tell you how to cut up a carrot, but what this show will do will give motivation and inspiration. I think that's one of the best things that people need on this level. We don't need the white coats with their rats. We need one another. SCAN gives us the opportunity on a grassroots level to start a grassroots movement about you and I, about health. Health is the most important thing in our lives. We can advocate about conservative politics. We can advocate about liberal politics. We can advocate about better roads. But if we're not healthy, I know what I'm talking about. 440 pounds, I was moving and I was shaking, but I was unhealthy. So I believe.
People walk in from everywhere, young, old, south, north, east, west, all different kinds of communities of interest, whether it be around some advocacy issue or it be around some personal lifestyle issue. So we don't actually have to work very hard to create the diversity. It knows that it has a home here.
There are over 9,000 nonprofit groups, which is an incredible number, most of which are very small. And community television is perfect for nonprofits because they can come in here and put a show together and talk about, they can tell their story, they can tell it in their words, and really utilize this as their community channel.
I think that SCAN has a special obligation to the public to help push this along, because I don't think these things will happen in commercial venues unless they can see a commercial outcome. So if they want to sell you the newest, latest, greatest M&M, sure, somebody will be doing that. But if it's Save the Salmon, or if it's Find the Polluters on Puget Sound, or things like that, nobody's thinking about that in the way that I think community media has to be thinking about that.
It's something I'll do for the rest of my life. Anyone should take it who wants to detoxify their system of the nasty buildup of toxins.
Serious allergic reactions and lymphoma have occurred.
Do it.
Cut right through
Cut right through it.
Then there's Luke Ballantyne, who hadn't shot one yet.
Currently, SCAN is funded through a contract with the City of Seattle through the end of this year, which runs concurrent with the existing cable television franchise that the city has with Comcast. After that fact, or after that date of expiration of the current agreement, there is no funding mechanism in place.
Cable franchise agreement is literally a contract between a municipality, whether it's a county or a city, that allows a cable company to actually build its plant.
And in return for the rent of the right-of-way, they pay franchise fees and make available certain kinds of things like cable channels and some capital funds for equipment, etc., for government and education and the public to have access to technology.
And we're encouraged that the mayor's office and that the city council will negotiate on our behalf.
The tough part is letting both of these entities know that SCAN is valuable, that the public is interested in keeping SCAN, and that that resources for SCAN are important to being a most livable city.
Comcast, being the huge corporation that it is, had $20 billion in revenue last year, and that's all around the country. And this is the 9th largest cable market in the country. So this is a huge piece of Comcast's empire.
I think if Comcast had its way, it would want control over all the pieces of the parts that go into their system, which includes not only the wires, but also all of the content.
Our concern is that we could come out of this franchise agreement with less of an operating budget or no operating budget, and that would essentially mean could mean the end of public access in Seattle.
But right now, SCAN is zip. It's not on the radar screen at all. There's a real need, I believe, to preserve SCAN, to preserve public access to the airwaves, to preserve the open format, to preserve the diversity of opinion that is represented there. What's missing is that you don't have a well-defined and well-heeled constituency that is making itself politically known to the decision makers, people like myself, people on city council. I know a number of SCAN producers, and it's, I know a handful at most, but most people don't. And the audience that watches SCAN is not mobilized in any fashion. I'm not even sure if there's an email list or whatever.
When people ask us, well, do you know how big your viewing audience is? Well, do they know how big the QVC viewing audience is? That's not even the measure of QVC success, it's how much money people spend. Here, it's whether or not it's serving community needs and interests, and whether or not it's giving a voice to maybe marginalized or fringe or alternative voices that otherwise would never see the light of day on regular television.
If history has told us anything, is that media shapes culture, and when media is controlled, be it by the state or by the large corporation, the diversity of voices are fewer.
I think public access is really essential as another element in keeping open additional channels of information beyond the mass media.
Public access is the voice of the people. The rest of television pretty much is the voice of government and corporation.
I think in today's world, if you don't see it on TV, it doesn't happen. And SCAN TV brings that home for all of us.
Clearly, things like SCAN TV are part of the forces that are going to protect our democracy.
No, I think it's wonderful that we have a public access channel. Out of all those channels, of course, there ought to be more.
I think they're trying to quash the right of free speech, and that's why Congress is trying to take money away from PBS and other funding for public television. The airways should be open to everybody.
This city has taken a slightly different approach. We should try to negotiate the best deal we can without going to court, essentially. In a way, it's sort of like having a union and saying, let's negotiate a contract without going on strike. Because in a strike, we won't win.
We've seen some real apathy. We've seen some people who don't really get that just because the voice coming from SCAN may be one that you don't agree with, that doesn't mean that you should turn SCAN off. What that means is that you should take your own voice down to SCAN and see if your own message resonates, And this is where, I guess what I would say is this. If SCAN went away, one, I would personally be devastated and sad. It has become my favorite thing to do, not because I like to grandstand and, and show the ego. It's because we have fun. We have real fun here. But I also think that it would be a loss for the community, and that, again, I think we would all agree that more information, more messages, more different truths and perspectives, you know, there's no way somebody can tell me that less of any of those is a better value.
Even if you're doing something that I may not believe in, even if you're doing something that I might not agree with, you know what? I give you the freedom to speak your word. And you know, something very serious is happening in the media today, that freedom is being shut down. It's almost being deprived from us. We're being deprived of it.
I just want to say Scan to me and places like Scan are a godsend, man. It's like, thank God we still have that. With all this bureaucracy, with all this corporate media, it's like Nazism almost. I mean, they control it, money. Let Scan stay here, people. Why? Because if not, what voice are we going to have?
How do we bring the image to the public? And I think Scan gives us this opportunity to bring our models, our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings, our wants, and say, you know what? You can be a part of this too.
If I was, an organizer for Scan, I would say that the steps are as follows. You identify the people who are your viewers and producers. Get them to contact City Council to say this is an important issue. We hope that you keep it on the table for negotiations with the franchise.
If you want the City Council to argue strongly and passionately for protecting community-based media such as Scan, then you have to let them know that you're interested in it.
You have to do something to generate some interest amongst those people who are, for lack of better terms, we'll call them the movers and shakers, the decision makers, the opinion leaders.
The message doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be succinct. And that is that community television has a very important place in Seattle, as well as outside of Seattle, and Scan is worth funding.
You can't stop. You just have to keep doing it, basically.
It's just complicated.
Fine surgical steel.
New clothes are fun. This is crazy.
Not everything is for everybody. One size does not have to fit all. True diversity and choice are hallmarks of a free society. The First Amendment guarantees that no law can abridge our rights of free speech and assembly, but it is up to us to make sure that happens. The ideas represented by these words are being challenged every day by private interests that are out to tip the balance in their favor. Operating in the public interest means that we as American citizens demand a fair deal and that our rights be upheld. Even though freedom is a right, we must never take it for granted. Free speech is a right we fight for every time we use it.